My girlfriend slept with my best friend. That alone would have been bad enough, but 5 years later, just before my wedding, one unexpected truth flipped everything upside down. Back when I was 29, things really fell apart between me, my ex Rachel, and my old roommate, someone I used to call my best friend, Logan. Rachel and I had been dating for a while. It wasn't all sunshine and roses, but I never thought anything shady was going on. At least, not right under my nose. Looking back now, maybe there were signs I ignored, like how she laughed a little too hard at his dumb jokes, or how she'd chill in his room, just to watch movies, on his big screen. But I brushed it off. I trusted them both. Big mistake. One night I got home from work and something felt off. They were being weird, too nice. Rachel offered to cook me dinner, which she never did, and Logan randomly asked if I wanted to grab burgers. The vibe was off, like they were trying way too hard to act normal. At the time, I just chalked it up to them being in good moods or something. I was tired, so I let it slide. But a few nights later, everything blew up in the worst way imaginable. I was knocked out cold, fast asleep, when my phone buzzed around 2 a.m. It was a text from a mutual friend, Derek. He'd sent me a screenshot of a conversation, Rachel talking to one of her friends, bragging about how she and Logan had been hooking up for months. Not just once. Months. My head started spinning. At first, I thought maybe it was some sick prank. But Derek wouldn't mess with me like that. All he said was, "Dude, I figured you should know." I just sat there staring at my screen, sick to my stomach, hands shaking. It felt like every good memory I had with Rachel, and every night I spent joking around with Logan, just vanished. And the worst part? I was about to propose to Rachel. I had it all planned out. And Logan? I let him crash on our couch to help him get back on his feet. I felt like the world's biggest idiot. After a few minutes of sitting in shock, I got up and went straight to Logan's room. I didn't knock. I just barged in. And there they were. Sitting on his bed together, frozen like kids who just got caught stealing cookies. Their faces said it all. Rachel stumbled over some excuse about how she wanted to tell me and that it had just happened. Yeah, right. Like I was born yesterday. Everything slowed down. It felt like I was watching it all from the outside. I started yelling, I can't even remember half of what came out of my mouth. I was just raging. And Logan? He had the nerve to act like it was no big deal. Said Rachel and I weren't working out anyway. Unbelievable. Rachel sat there like she was about to cry, but I didn't care. She'd had months to come clean if she was that unhappy. Months to leave instead of sneaking around. Once the shouting died down, or at least enough that I could think straight, I told them both to leave. I didn't care where they went, I just needed them gone. Logan tried talking, saying he never meant for it to get this far. Like that somehow made it better. Rachel kept saying she didn't want things to end this way. It was all excuses. Just empty words they probably hoped would make me feel less angry. But nothing they said could undo what they did. I didn't sleep that night. I crashed on a buddy's couch and just sat there, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how blind I'd been. By morning, I knew what I had to do. I went back to the apartment to grab my stuff. Of course, they were still there. Rachel tried to stop me, started going on about how she hoped we could still be friends someday. A joke, honestly. Friends don't do what she did. I tossed everything into boxes and bags as fast as I could. Didn't care about organizing. I just wanted to be out of there. Logan stood off in the corner, quiet, avoiding eye contact. Coward. When I finished packing, I told them both that was it. I was done. I didn't want to hear from either of them again. Rachel looked like she wanted to say something, but I didn't stick around to hear it. I walked out and never looked back. From that point on, I cut ties with all of it. I didn't even bother telling our mutual friends what happened. I figured the truth would come out eventually. But here's what really stung: they didn't care. A couple people reached out to say, sorry things got messy, but when it came down to it, they stayed friends with Rachel and Logan. I didn't know whether to laugh or be pissed, but either way, it told me what I needed to know. So I ghosted the entire friend group. All of them. Changed my number, deleted my socials, and moved back to my home state. At first, it felt like I was ripping up everything I'd ever known. But deep down, I knew it was the only way to really move on. I couldn't keep holding on to people who didn't have my back. So I let it all go, and I never once looked back. It wasn't easy. There were days I second-guessed myself, wondering if I was being too harsh, or if I'd let my anger win. But then I'd remember that night. I'd remember the way they looked at me, like I was interrupting their little love story. Like I was the bad guy. I wasn't the one lying. I wasn't sneaking around behind anyone's back. Life didn't magically fix itself after that. There were some rough patches. Starting over was hard. But slowly, piece by piece, I rebuilt. New friends. A fresh career path. I started climbing my way back. And then, I met Sophie. She was everything Rachel wasn't: honest, real, and respectful. She knew my past and never judged me for it. She supported my decision to leave that chapter closed. Never once tried to dig it up. And with her, I found real happiness again. So fast forward to now, I'm engaged to this incredible woman. Life feels solid. The past is far behind me. Or at least, that's what I thought. Turns out, I was wrong. Rachel and Logan weren't finished messing with my life, not by a long shot. So there I was, finally in a good place. I'd left all that chaos behind, cut every tie, cleaned the slate, and moved on. I was engaged to Sophie, building a life with someone who actually respected me, and I really believed I'd closed that ugly chapter for good. But then something totally unexpected kicked the door back open. It all started with a single post. Now, I've never been much for social media. I barely post, and when I do, it's nothing fancy. But I thought, hey, it's a happy moment, why not share it? So I posted a picture of me and Sophie, just the two of us smiling, with a short caption about our engagement. That was it. Nothing flashy. Just a moment of joy I wanted to put out into the world. I figured it'd get a few likes from family and the handful of friends I still talk to. End of story, right? Wrong. That one photo lit the match that reignited all the drama I thought was long buried. A couple days after the post went up, I got a random message notification on my phone. I glanced at the screen, and there it was. A message from Rachel. I nearly dropped my phone. I mean, after years of complete silence, she suddenly reappears out of nowhere. I didn't even open the message, I just froze, staring at her name while this wave of old emotions came rushing back. Anger. Betrayal. Disgust. My first instinct was to delete it immediately. But I paused, trying to figure out what the hell she wanted now. I hadn't thought about her in forever, and with Sophie in my life, I had no unfinished business. No need for closure. Nothing. I wasn't interested in hearing her story, her excuses, none of it. So I did what felt right. I blocked her. Didn't even open the message. Just blocked and moved on. Or at least, I thought I did. That night, I told Sophie what happened. I didn't want to keep anything from her, especially something like this. She laughed, said I handled it perfectly, and for good measure, blocked Rachel too, just in case. We figured that'd be the end of it. Let Rachel get whatever weird closure she needed and move on like the rest of us. But instead of moving on, she doubled down. It started with weird friend requests, Sophie was getting them left and right. Accounts with no posts, no real photos, just some random generic profile picture. At first, we didn't think much of it. But after a few, Sophie got suspicious. She's sharp like that. She looked at me and said, "You don't think this is Rachel, do you?" And honestly, it made too much sense. Who else would go to those lengths? It was annoying more than anything. Like, seriously. I hadn't spoken to Rachel in years, and now she's back acting like we're in some high school drama. Eventually, I got sick of it. I figured if she was using social media to mess with me, then I'd take away her playground. So I deleted everything. Every account. But before I wiped mine, one of those fake profiles actually messaged me directly. This time, I knew it was her. So I replied once, told her to leave me alone, that I wanted nothing to do with her, and immediately blocked the account. Then I nuked my profile for good. Done, right? Wrong again. Apparently, when she couldn't get to me directly anymore, she decided to take a different route. Just a couple days later, my sister Claire called out of the blue. Now, we're close, but we don't talk every single day, so I thought maybe she just wanted to catch up or ask about wedding stuff. But the second I answered, I could tell something was off. She sounded off. She didn't even say hi. She just jumped right in, "Hey, I need to talk to you about something weird." And I'm thinking, great. Now what? Then she says Rachel reached out to her. Not some casual, "Hey, how've you been," kind of message either. Rachel had launched into some wild story, claiming I had a son. Yeah. You heard that right. A son. At first, I actually laughed. I thought Claire was joking. But she wasn't. She said Rachel was serious, desperate even. Claire had tried brushing her off, but Rachel wouldn't let it go. She kept messaging, sending photos of this kid, saying how much he looked like me. Talking about how she never wanted to keep it a secret and all that noise. I didn't buy it for a second. I mean, come on. If this were legit, why now? Why wait 5 whole years to say something? If this kid was really mine, wouldn't she have contacted me about support or told me she was even pregnant? None of it added up. And I told Claire that. But Claire said Rachel was pretty damn insistent, and honestly, I could hear it in her voice, she wasn't sure what to believe either. Which only made it more confusing. It started to mess with my head. I tried to tell myself it was just Rachel stirring up drama again. But deep down, I couldn't shake one nagging thought, what if? What if she was telling the truth? The timing felt too convenient, and yeah, I didn't trust Rachel for a second, but the idea that I might have a kid out there? That's not something you can just ignore. For the next few days, I couldn't concentrate. Work? Forget about it. My brain kept circling back to Rachel, and this supposed son. Sophie picked up on it right away. She kept asking if I was okay. I didn't want to drag her into the mess, so I blamed it on work stress. But truthfully, my head was all over the place. The idea that I might have a child I never knew about, that maybe some kid out there was mine, ate at me. Eventually, I realized I couldn't just pretend it wasn't happening. If Rachel was willing to go around me to get to my sister, who's to say she wouldn't show up at my front door next? I knew I had to shut this thing down for good, one way or another. So I picked up the phone and called a lawyer. There was no way I was going to keep dealing with Rachel directly, not after everything. I figured having a professional step in would put an official stop to the nonsense. I just wanted her completely out of my life. No more messages, no more mind games. I was building something real with Sophie, and I wasn't about to let the past crawl back in and wreck it. I explained everything to the attorney, every weird message, every fake profile, even that last creepy anonymous text that finally tipped the scale. He listened carefully, nodded, and said he'd handle it from here. He'd draft a letter, something firm but legal, basically telling her to either provide proof if she had something real, or leave me alone for good. Honestly, it felt like a weight was lifted just handing it off. I didn't want to look at another text from her, let alone respond to one. Let the lawyer deal with it. So I walked away from it thinking it was finally done. I really believed she'd get the message, literally, and back off. But nope. A few days later, my lawyer gave me a call. Said he needed me to come by his office in person to go over something. I assumed it was going to be quick. Maybe he'd tell me Rachel had dropped it and we could move on. So I showed up feeling pretty calm. That didn't last long. He sat me down, didn't say much, just handed me an envelope. Inside? Photos. A bunch of them. And they were of a little boy. And I don't even know how to describe it, but the moment I saw his face, I felt like I'd been hit in the chest. The kid looked just like me. I mean, it was like flipping through old pictures of myself, same dark hair, same eyes, same smile. It was eerie. I sat there frozen, just staring at these pictures, my stomach in knots. My lawyer explained that Rachel had sent them as proof, along with a note laying out the timeline. She claimed she got pregnant not long after I caught her and Logan together. But at the time, both she and Logan just assumed the baby was his. She said they never told me because they genuinely believed Logan was the father. They kept living their lives like that. Then, when they tried for more kids later, they found out Logan was sterile. That's when the doubts crept in. I wanted to dismiss the whole thing as another manipulation. Rachel had always been a liar, and this felt a little too convenient. But those photos, they weren't easy to ignore. That little boy had my face. Still, I wasn't about to take her word for it. I told my lawyer to get a DNA test set up. I needed facts, cold, hard proof, before I could even begin to process any of this. Waiting for the results felt like a lifetime. Every single day dragged. I couldn't focus at work, couldn't sleep right, couldn't think about anything else. Eventually, I told Sophie what was going on. I didn't want secrets between us, not now, not with something this serious. She took it better than I expected. She was supportive, even though I could see how much it worried her. I mean, this wasn't just drama anymore. If that kid was mine, our whole future was going to shift. But she stayed by my side. Told me we'd face it together, no matter what. Then, finally, the lawyer called. It's a match, he said. I didn't know what to feel in that moment. Part of me was relieved to have an answer. But there was also shock. And a whole lot of anger. I had a son. A son I never even knew existed. A little boy who spent his whole life thinking someone else was his dad, while I'd been completely in the dark. Finding out you're a father is one thing. Finding out 5 years too late because someone made that choice for you. That hits different. My head was spinning. I couldn't believe it. I had a son. I was a dad. But my next thought, almost instantly, was about Logan. How the hell could he go along with this? Raise a kid that might not even be his, and never once say anything to me? And Rachel, she had years, to come clean. But she waited until I was engaged, stable, and happy. That timing said it all. It didn't feel like she was doing the right thing. It felt like she was doing what was best for her. Reaching out not because it was the right time, but because I finally looked worth the trouble. I felt used. Like she saw an opportunity and jumped at it. And that hit me hard. But even with all that anger, I couldn't ignore one thing, the kid. He didn't ask for any of this. He wasn't part of the lies. He didn't deserve to be forgotten just because his parents had made a mess. I told my lawyer to contact Rachel and Logan. I wanted in. I wanted to be part of my son's life. I wasn't running from this. I also made it clear I'd pay child support. But if I was going to do that, I wasn't just going to be some check in the mail. I wanted visitation rights. I wanted to meet my kid, spend time with him, be his father, not just some mystery guy in the background. That's when Logan lost it. According to my lawyer, Logan went ballistic. He said he was the real dad and didn't want me anywhere near his son. The guy cheats with my girlfriend, secretly raises my kid, and then tells me I don't get to be in his life. I was furious. I told my lawyer, if I'm paying, I'm parenting. End of story. Rachel tried to play mediator, suggesting we come up with some low-key arrangement, something where I help out financially, but keep things quiet so we don't confuse the kid. Yeah, no. If they wanted my support, they had to accept me as the kid's actual father. Plain and simple. And if they didn't? I'd start a savings account for my son and keep every cent there until he turned 18. But I wasn't going to play along with their twisted little setup. None of it felt real. The whole thing was surreal, like some bad dream I couldn't wake up from. So here I was, ready to step up, ready to be a dad, something I never imagined I'd be facing this soon. But instead of support or cooperation, all I got was resistance. I couldn't wrap my head around it. They wanted my money, sure, but they didn't want me in the picture. It was like they wanted to cherry-pick what parts of me were convenient for their little fantasy life, like I was some human ATM they could tap into when things got tight. Well, that wasn't going to fly with me. I told my lawyer we were going to push harder. If I was going to provide financial support, then I was going after full visitation rights, or whatever rights I was legally entitled to as my son's biological father. I wasn't about to be treated like some forgotten footnote in his life. And if Rachel and Logan didn't like that, then they weren't getting a single cent from me. I'd rather save every dollar in a private account for my son than let them control the narrative. Of course, that's when they started tossing around guilt trips like candy at a parade. Suddenly, I was the selfish one. The guy trying to destroy their family. Honestly, it was laughable, coming from the same two people who hid the existence of my own child from me. Selfish? If anyone was selfish, it was them, clinging to their picture-perfect family image while hiding a truth that should have been mine to know from day one. But I'd made up my mind. I wasn't walking away. I told my lawyer I was in this for the long haul. No matter how long it took, I wasn't going to back down. I was done letting them write the story without me. Of course, once we got deeper into the legal side of things, reality set in. It wasn't going to be simple. Rachel and Logan had a 5-year head start. And because Logan's name was on the birth certificate, he was legally recognized as the father. My lawyer explained that even though I was the biological dad, that didn't automatically grant me parental rights. I'd have to fight for them. It would take time, money, and, unfortunately, patience. And patience? Yeah, not exactly my specialty. Rachel and Logan weren't making it easy either. My lawyer tried to set up a meeting to talk things through like adults, but Logan refused to even show up. Instead, he sent this long, overly dramatic email about how he was the only father the kid had ever known and that letting me into his life would disrupt things. Disrupt. Like my son was some group project he'd been managing and I was about to screw up the formatting. Meanwhile, Rachel tried playing the negotiator. She floated this weird middle ground idea, said I could see my son, but only on her terms. Maybe a short visit every few months. Ideally without Logan around. Her reasoning? She didn't want to confuse the kid about who his real dad was. But the thing is, he already has a real dad. Me. Not just biologically, but morally too. I wasn't some stranger off the street. I was his father, and they didn't get to hide me in the shadows because it made things more convenient for them. I told my lawyer, this arrangement was not going to cut it. Either they accepted me as an actual parent in his life, or they weren't getting a dime. They couldn't have it both ways. Not anymore. Naturally, they freaked. Rachel started flooding my inbox with guilt-ridden messages, all about how I was punishing the child by refusing to pay. That if I cared, I'd help, no matter what. And Logan? He went full territorial. He sent messages accusing me of only coming around because I was ashamed of some mistake from my past that I now wanted to fix. A mistake? No. My son was never a mistake. The only mistake here was trusting either of them with the truth. Still, my lawyer kept going back and forth with them. Weeks of emails, negotiations, stalling tactics. It was a mess. A never-ending tug-of-war between guilt, ego, and stubborn pride. And every time I felt myself getting worn out, I thought about my son. He didn't know who I was yet, but I wanted to make sure that when the day came, when he was old enough to ask questions, he'd know that I fought for him. That I didn't walk away. I wasn't going to be just another guy signing checks while someone else got to be called Dad. Finally, after what felt like months of running in circles, we got them to agree to an in-person meeting. Let me tell you, it was tense from the jump. Rachel showed up first. She looked nervous, like she was preparing for a job interview she knew she wasn't ready for. Then Logan came in, no eye contact, didn't say a word. He just sat down, arms crossed like he was at a protest. You could feel the tension hanging in the air. Rachel started things off, saying she'd only kept the secret because she thought it was for the best. I nearly lost it. For the best? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Keeping a child away from his father for 5 years was for the best. She stumbled through her answer, said they thought Logan was the father and that bringing me in would have just made things messy. Then Logan finally opened his mouth. He was on full defense mode. I raised him. I taught him to ride his bike. I helped him with every school project, he said. Like I was some stranger barging in to steal his thunder. And look, I get it. He's been there. He's done the parenting stuff. But that doesn't erase biology. It doesn't erase the fact that I have the right to be in my son's life too. We went back and forth for hours. Same arguments, different words. They kept circling around the idea of what's best for him, but what they really meant was what's easiest for us. They wanted me in the background, unseen, unheard, just a source of money when needed. They tossed around phrases like, we don't want to confuse him, like the truth wasn't eventually going to come out anyway. The kid's 5, not 5 months. Sooner or later, he's going to start asking questions. How long did they think they could keep this up? That's when my lawyer stepped in and laid everything out clearly. If you want financial support, then he gets visitation, he said. Regular visitation. No more games. Logan looked like he was about to blow a gasket, but I wasn't budging. This wasn't about Rachel. It wasn't about Logan. This was about my son, and my right to be his father. Rachel gave it one last shot. She floated the idea of maybe revisiting everything in a year or two, once our son was a little more used to things. But I was done playing that game. I told them flat out, if I didn't get proper visitation now, I'd open a savings account in my son's name instead. He'd have access to that money when he turned 18, and he'd know the truth, that I wanted to be there, that I fought to be part of his life. But I wasn't going to bankroll their version of a family while they acted like I didn't even exist. The second those words left my mouth, Rachel's face dropped. You could tell she hadn't expected me to stand my ground. Maybe she figured I'd cave, toss money at the problem just to avoid a headache. But not this time. I wasn't going to be some blurry figure in the background of my own son's story just because it was easier for them. I wanted to know him. I wanted him to grow up knowing I gave a damn, that I didn't walk away. The meeting didn't end with anything solid, which was frustrating as hell, but at least I left knowing I'd made my position loud and clear. They understood I wasn't disappearing. I wasn't going to roll over. If they wanted support, they'd have to give something in return: respect, access, truth. Walking out of that room, I felt a storm of emotion, anger at everything they'd put me through, and yeah, a little sadness, too. Because deep down, I knew Logan wasn't wrong about everything. He was there for the scraped knees, the school pickups, the bedtime stories. Those 5 years, they happened. I couldn't erase them. But that didn't mean I was walking away. I might have missed the beginning, but I sure as hell wasn't missing the rest. That meeting drained me. Mentally, emotionally, I was fried. But I left more determined than ever. I wasn't letting them block me out of my son's life just because it made things more comfortable for them. The next few weeks were mostly quiet. My lawyer and I kept working to nail down official visitation rights, and I was fully prepared to take it to court if I had to. The hassle didn't matter anymore. I just wanted to be there, for real. Then, out of nowhere, Rachel bypassed the lawyer completely and sent a message straight to me. It caught me off guard. She wasn't writing from a legal standpoint this time, it felt personal, like she was trying to reach me directly, human to human. Maybe she thought if she played the right emotional card, I'd back off. Her message started out soft, almost warm. She said something like, "I've been thinking a lot about everything, and I realize this has been hard on you too." She went on to say she never meant to hurt me, and that, twisted as it sounds, she thought she was protecting our son by keeping me out of it. She mentioned how Logan was still struggling with the reality of it all, that he felt threatened by me showing up now. And for a second, a small one, I wondered if she was really trying to make things right. But then I remembered who I was dealing with. Rachel didn't grow a conscience overnight. She'd buried the truth for years and let another man pretend to be the father of my child. She only came forward when it worked for her. So no, I didn't buy the sudden change of heart. Still, I kept reading. And then came the kicker. The real reason she messaged me. She offered a compromise. She said she could see me having a relationship with our son, but only under certain conditions. A few visits a year. No mention of who I really was. No truth about me being his actual father. She called it a peaceful solution for everyone. Like she was doing me a favor. Like I should be grateful for a small part-time role in my own son's life, while Logan continued to play the hero. Any hope I had of finding a middle ground vanished right then. A handful of visits and a gag order on the truth. Nah. I wasn't going to be some quiet extra in my son's life story. I wasn't signing up to be the fun uncle who shows up every now and then. I shot back a reply. Short and to the point. If I'm paying child support, I'm his dad. Period. Take it or leave it. She didn't reply. And honestly, I figured that was the end of it. But then, just when things seemed to be cooling off, Logan called me. It was the first time I'd heard his voice in years. And man, it hit me like a truck. All the anger, all the betrayal, it came rushing back. Still, I kept my cool. Let him talk. He said he wanted to clear the air, said maybe we could sort this out like grown-ups. I had my doubts, but I let him keep going. He admitted he was struggling with the whole situation. That it was a lot to deal with. And then, he said he respected me for wanting to be there. For stepping up. Okay, so far so good. But then we got to the real reason for the call. He said he was worried. That if I got involved now, our son would be confused, feel like he had two dads. And in Logan's words, that's not healthy for a kid his age. At first, I wanted to believe he meant well. That maybe, just maybe, he was being honest. But the more he talked, the clearer it got, he didn't want compromise. He wanted control. This wasn't about what was best for our son. It was about keeping things exactly how he liked them, with me on the sidelines, invisible. I cut him off mid-sentence. Look, I said, if I'm paying to support him, I'm going to be part of his life. End of discussion. I wasn't doing this to make life easier for Rachel or for Logan. This was about my son, plain and simple. Logan tried to argue, said I was breaking up a family, but I cut him off. I'd heard enough. I ended the call right then and there, figuring that was probably the last time we'd ever have anything close to a civil conversation, if you could even call it that. Things went quiet after that, but I knew the silence wouldn't last. It felt like that eerie calm you get before a storm hits. I used that time to prepare, mentally, legally, whatever was coming next. I wasn't giving up. I wasn't going to fade into the background like they wanted me to. I was going to be a real father to my boy. Not a visitor. Not a ghost. His dad. Through it all, Sophie was my anchor. She kept me grounded when I was running on fumes. She reminded me why I was fighting, especially on the days when everything felt stacked against me. Every email, every meeting, every ridiculous demand Rachel and Logan threw our way, she stood by me. I don't know how I would have made it through without her. One night, while we were talking about everything, about the future, Sophie looked at me and said something that stuck. Your son deserves to know who you are. One day, he's going to thank you for never giving up. That hit me hard. In the best way. This whole thing. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about making Rachel or Logan pay. It was about making sure my son knew the truth, that his real father fought like hell to be in his life. So here I am. Still fighting. Still waiting for the courts to do their thing. I don't know how long it'll take. I don't know what other obstacles they'll throw at me. But I'm not stopping. One day, my son will hear the full story. And when he does, he'll know, his dad never walked away. His dad showed up. It's been a brutal road, no doubt. But I wouldn't change a thing. Because at the end of the day, he's worth it. And then, after months of back and forth, legal hearings, court dates, and more emotional whiplash than I can put into words, we finally reached a settlement. It wasn't everything I wanted. But it was something. I got regular visitation. Scheduled time with my son. My son, without Rachel or Logan's conditions hovering over me. The first visit? Man, it felt surreal. I remember standing outside the park we'd agreed to meet at. My heart was racing like I was about to meet someone I'd dreamed about my whole life. And in a way, I was. Then I saw him. He ran toward me, and in that moment, everything clicked. He looked just like me. Same eyes, same wild curiosity, same stubborn energy. I couldn't stop smiling. I didn't even try. We played. Talked. Laughed. He showed me his favorite things like any kid would, and for those couple of hours, I wasn't some outsider, I was his dad. It wasn't perfect. There were still awkward moments. Still boundaries set by Rachel and Logan. Still reminders that I was catching up on years I'd never get back. Sometimes I'd leave feeling like I'd barely made a dent. But each visit, I saw a change. He was opening up. Warming up. He didn't fully understand who I was yet, but he knew I was someone important. And that was enough, for now. As for Rachel and Logan, they're still doing their thing. But I think they're finally starting to accept that I'm not going anywhere. They don't have to like it. But they've stopped fighting it. And honestly, that's a win in my book. Sophie's been amazing through all of it. She's even gotten to know my son, and seeing her with him, it just confirms everything I already knew. She's the one. We're planning our wedding now. It's not the fairy tale I once imagined, but it's real. And in that vision of the future, I see him standing there, my son. Maybe someday, when he's older, he'll be my best man. Because he's not just a part of my life, he's part of my family. I'll never get those first 5 years back. That truth stings. But every laugh, every hug, every time he looks at me with that smile and says something only a kid can say, it makes all the struggle worth it. And maybe one day, when he's old enough to hear it, I'll sit him down and tell him the whole story. Not to pit him against anyone. Not to force him to take sides. But so he'll know that from the very start, I showed up. And I never stopped fighting to be his dad.